So there's an incredible amount of people on social media raving about the use of castor oil eye drops, claiming that they help with dry eyes, with eye floaters, cataracts, and even the growth of eyelashes. So as an eye doctor, I dug into the research and could not find any published studies of somebody using 100% castor oil as an eye drop directly onto the human eye. So I've been curious what would happen if somebody did and tracked it scientifically. So I took all of my baseline eye health and tear film measurements, ordered 100% castor oil eye drops, and started putting an eye drop in my right eye only for 30 days, leaving my left eye as a control, paying close attention to any improvements, side effects, and of course my dry eye and eye health measurements. And wow, did I learn some stuff. Now before we dive into my experience and results, let me first just say that putting questionable, untested eye drops or substances into the eye is generally not recommended, and always consult a local eye care professional about any new or, questionable eye drops that you may be putting into the eye. And if you ever have pain or redness, stop doing it, and again, talk to your local eye doctor. Also, today's video is made possible by the new 1-drop preservative-free lubricating eye drops from Tear Restore, but more on them later. So previously I did post a video reviewing the claimed benefits as well as the current published literature all about castor oil and how it could affect the eye. Probably the two most notable research studies, one of which they used 100% castor oil on the eyelids for treating blepharitis, and that did have some positive results. And then another study showed 100% castor oil in vitro in the lab could potentially cause cytotoxic effects to surface cells. So just knowing that information off the bat when going into this, I was honestly a little bit hesitant because, I didn't want to cause damage to my eye. However, there are so many people online, and I've even had patients in the eye clinic kind of swear by using it. So I was curious. Okay, so here's how I did the study. First of all, I had baseline dry eye measurements in the clinic, including evaluation of my eye health. We measured my meibomian glands, my tear film stability. I even had another doctor at the eye clinic measure or assess for any ocular surface damage, for cataracts, for eye floaters, everything. We even measured my tear film osmolarity and the length of my eyelashes. Then I went and ordered 100% pure, hexane-free, cold-pressed castor oil sold in a dark glass bottle, all in the efforts to reduce possible impurities and to keep it more shelf-stable. Plus, this happens to be like the exact thing that everybody online seems to claim you have to get this kind. You can't just get any brand of castor oil that's sold at like the pharmacy in a plastic bottle. It needs to be this very specific kind. So that's what I ordered. But then, despite my hesitations, I started putting this 100% castor oil, 1 drop in my right eye only, every night for 30 days. I will share that my first experience putting them in, thankfully the eye drops didn't burn, they didn't sting, they didn't make my eyes feel irritated or anything, but they did, however, make my eyes feel pretty sticky, gummy, and they blurred my vision for a good 30 minutes or so. And this is somewhat to be expected because it is a pretty thick and viscous oil, right? You can even see in these images here at the eye clinic where we put a drop of the castor oil on my eye and measured the tear film stability. In fact, we noted that it looks pretty ropey or has kind of this globule look to it, meaning it just doesn't spread evenly across the eye's surface. And so that was probably the biggest challenge I faced while doing this, is that it does blur your vision and cause your vision to fluctuate pretty heavily. I even measured it in the clinic, typically bringing my vision from 20/20 up to like 20/40, 20/50 in between blinks. And this would make it pretty challenging for me at nighttime because after putting the eye drops in, I'd typically lay down and start to try to read a book, as I often do before going to bed, which would make my vision kind of challenged in this moment. And yes, I am that nerd who reads physiology and nutrition textbooks before bedtime. So then over the next 4.5 weeks, I not only used these eye drops, but I took note of all the symptoms I experienced, and then we did some final tear film and eye health measurements at the end. And afterward, I will say I have two kind of major things that I wanted to mention and review. Of course, first of which is my dry eye findings and kind of the ultimate kind of resolution of signs and symptoms with dry eye, but then also kind of a mystery symptom, something that I experienced experience that I honestly don't have a full explanation for at this time, but I do have a theory, and I want to review all that. But first, I do think it's really important to mention that castor oil is in fact used in several eye drop medications and artificial tears that you may find at the store, mainly because castor oil can help stabilize the tear film and help prevent your tears from evaporating. However, most of these formulations do not use 100% castor oil. They instead use closer to about 1 to 2% castor oil. So huge difference there. But I will add that shopping for eye drops at the store can be very confusing. Not only there seems to be way too many options, but a lot of the labels don't seem to make much sense, and it seems like one tiny bottle just seems to cost way more than it should. But that's actually where the new One Drop from Tear Restore, the sponsor of today's video, comes in. In fact, the One Drop is formulated with castor oil in it, except that it has a patented nano-emulsion technology to make the drops spread evenly across the eye surface. That way, it won't blur your vision. So this way, castor oil helps support the tear film lipid layer, while other ingredients like hyaluronic acid help retain moisture for long-lasting comfort. Now, I will say, as an eye doctor who sees a lot of dry eye, I like that this one drop helps with all forms of dry eye, making it an easy choice for everyone. Plus, it is preservative-free and safe to use while wearing contact lenses. Tear Restore also stripped away a lot of the markups, making the one drop right now actually about half the price compared to a lot of the competitors. To try a bottle yourself, check out the link below. Otherwise, huge shout out and thank you to Tear Restore for sponsoring today's video. And let's get back into it. So again, after 30 days of castor oil use in my right eye, the major things I was assessing for were changes to my dry eye parameters, to any eye health changes, namely that of things like eye floaters, and of course, eyelash growth. First, when it came to my dry eye symptoms, on a positive note, while the eye drop, the castor oil, was actively in my eye, it actually felt pretty good. I mean, outside of the sticky feeling and the fluctuating vision that was annoying, the dryness sensations largely went away, and so I think that is kind of a positive thing. But, however, over the course of the month as I was using it, just in my right eye, I noted more frequent or worsening dry eye symptoms, mainly that of kind of spontaneous tearing or watering of my right eye. This would happen more often when I'm just staring at the computer screen, or perhaps going for a walk outside and if it was a windy day, my right eye would start to tear where my left eye didn't. And this is very much a symptom of dry eyes or an unstable tear film. But looking at my tear film parameters in the eye clinic, that's where this really got interesting. So most of the measured tear film parameters were in fact stable afterward versus the baseline, meaning ocular surface damage really didn't change, the osmolarity or tear film salt content really didn't change before or after, but looking at my non-invasive keratograph breakup time, or my tear film stability, where the instrument measures how quickly the oil layers start to separate on the eye, before and afterward, in that right eye, they were both stable of around 4 to 5 seconds. Which, just to give a frame of reference, normal is around 10 seconds, meaning that even before starting this trial of the castor oil, I had pretty significantly kind of unstable tear film. But if we then look at my left eye, the control eye that didn't get the castor oil, again, it started pretty equal to where my right eye was at baseline, but over the course of the month, the left eye that didn't get the treatment improved in tear film stability, which is honestly not what I was expecting. So while this is definitely not a robust or formal study in any capacity, it seems that the castor oil, 100%, while it did help with dry eye symptoms while it was actively on the eye, over time, it may have prevented any natural or innate healing that was actively going on in the eye that wasn't receiving the installation of that 100% castor oil. But again, I am just an N of 1, and I definitely have some other thoughts I'll share in just a moment. But outside of the dry eye measurements, we also measured no changes to my eyelash growth. We also noted no changes to my otherwise ocular health or eye floaters. Now, the other odd kind of symptom or experience that I had that I wanted to share is that while using the 100% castor oil in just my right eye, after about 5 or 6 days, I started to experience a dull, kind of throbbing eye pain that felt very internal or almost behind my eye. And oftentimes when eye doctors think or hear about somebody having a dull, deep eye pain, we often are thinking or concerned that there's some level of inflammation, either inside of the eye or behind the eye, like in the optic nerve, for example. But thankfully, I did have one of the eye doctors examine my eye, and they could not find any signs of internal inflammation or anything going on. So I've definitely had a couple of different theories or ideas come across my mind of why I was experiencing this pain in just my right eye. But I think probably the best kind of idea or thought is that because I was only putting the castor oil in just my right eye, and I was getting a lot of that blurry vision and trying to read at night, that perhaps I was experiencing some level of an accommodative spasm. My right eye and left eye were trying to fight each other while reading, and that might have led that internal muscle to contract and contribute somewhat to maybe this kind of feeling of eye strain. Thankfully, since discontinuing the use of the castor oil, this pain resolved and went away, but I thought I would share it in case anybody happened to also have tried castor oil in their eye and experienced something similar. Either way, the important thing is that, again, I experienced pain and consulted one of the other doctors at the clinic to look at it and tell me what's going on. Okay, so a few big things I do want to mention. One, this is not a legit or formal scientific study by far, but I thought doing this would at least give me some insight into what could 100% castor oil on the eye potentially do, whether it be for just people generally online or for some of my patients who I know have tried it. 2, I am an N of 1. This does not help us determine true safety or efficacy at all. Big studies to determine those things usually have hundreds of participants. And 3, I only did this self-study for 30 days. We do not know what would happen if I had gone on for longer, like 90 days or more. But here I think 100% castor oil is still not the best choice to be put directly onto the human eyeball. Not just from my experience here, but even just from a product safety standpoint. What I mean by this is that castor oil is not compounded, made, or distributed to the same standards as medications or just even artificial tears that are sold at the store. I honestly have no idea if this bottle truly has 100% castor oil in it. I'm simply just taking the label and trusting it. I have no idea if there's other impurities, if perhaps the pH had been changed during the shipping or anything. And I think that's a bigger issue that a lot of healthcare providers have, is that if people are going to use this, they just don't really know what they're putting in their eyes. But while that is all being said, I do think that castor oil has a place in the eye care world. Most notably at the kind of 1 to 2% range, something that has been shown in research and has been formulated to be helpful for the eye. I think if somebody was going to use 100% castor oil near the eyes, it would be only to be applied near the eyelids, as presented in this study here, specifically for blepharitis, because they did show some positive benefits and safety. So at this time, I personally would not advise anyone to put 100% castor oil directly onto the eyeball. I simply haven't seen any evidence to support its biochemistry, a mechanism, or safety of it being applied to the eye. If anything, there may be a chance of greater safety or risk issues while using it, right? The risks do not outweigh the benefit, at least from my experience. Now from here, I'm sure there's many of you who are watching who have tried castor oil eye drops yourself and have totally different experience. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'd love to know if you had not only a positive experience different from mine, or if you had something similar to mine, like maybe it felt good, but then maybe made it worse, or perhaps you had that dull, aching kind of pain feeling like I experienced too. Let me know what happened. Same thing if you've ever used castor oil for another purpose, right? If you ever used it for hair growth or for your skin or for something. Again, I'd find it interesting. Either way, let me just say thank you so much for watching. Keep an eye on it, and we'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, I'm going to go put some eye drops in.